welcome. Today's video is from Belfast. We've come to Belfast to see this. The museum I came to see a month ago that was closed. RMS Titanic. Just look at that museum. So I just thought I'd come and have a look at probably one of the most famous shipwrecks, if not the most famous shipwreck in the world. And the place where it was built, Belfast. Right next to the Harland and Wolff cranes. Actually, that's beautiful. So let's head inside and go and see inside the Titanic Belfast exhibition. We will go and see the last White Star Line vessel SS Nomadic once we've finished, but let's go and see its much bigger and more famous sister. Reminds me of the Guinness factory in Dublin, just how it's all like staggered upwards. Views out the window are beautiful. Right, well, let's go into stage one of our Titanic experience, shall we? Right,
separated from each other by the great oceans of the world. Also an empire built on maritime trade. The backbone of the empire is the Royal Navy's dominion over international trade. Merchants and manufacturers in every corner of the British Isles.
Well, it was the world coming to Scotland to unite London, James. I suppose either of us would ever be privileged to travel in such magnificent surroundings. Another day done, James. What a long day indeed. Maybe we're talking late tonight. Great affairs, James. Great affairs. Always that way. Mr. Ismay dined to his lordship. I think so. His lordship and Mr. Ismay are eminent men. And the Wolf is the world's greatest shipbuilder. The White Star Line is the jewel of the Atlantic services. Tanya rules the waves. I hear Cunard is faster now. It's not a matter of speed, James. Not for Mr. Ismay's passenger.
Gentry always do appear to have time on their hands.
I will have none of that talk here.
Well, is that way when Mr. Ismay dines with his lordship?
I should think so. His lordship and Mr. Ismay are eminent men. Harland and Wolff is the world's greatest shipbuilder, and the White Star Line is the jewel of the Atlantic services. Tanya rules the waves.
I hear Cunard is faster now.
It's not a matter of speed, James. Not for Mr. Ismay's passenger.
Gentry always do appear to have time on their hands.
I will have none of that talk here.
I'm sorry, Mr. Harrison, I'm fair one.
so as we know, Titanic was one of three sister ships. It had Olympic, Britannic and Titanic. And they were all known big class ships.
His lordship was talking about the largest dry dock in Belfast. Enormous gantries, a dry dock built yet.
And look at the dry dock they had to build for it. This is a scale model, by the way.
Start swinging that way. You have to go that way.
Losing a new generation of ocean liners.
Big ships, Mr. Harrison.
Largest and most luxurious ever. Not so fast as Cunard
Design studio for wow.
Big again. Water the light.
Look at that.
3, I think they said. Equal where they find the sort of money from. That's a clever part, James. Mr. Ismay has the backing of the distinguished American financier, John.
And we all know that he was in the Leonardo DiCaprio film.
International Mercantile Marine Company.
But I thought you built British ships. They fly the British flag, James, and they shall be constructed in our finest shipyard by our most skilled craftsmen. Great Leviathans acting as ambassadors for the Empire. British ships go with American money. Well, there's the one coming to. It's not worth to reunite to wonder, James. I don't suppose either of us will ever be privileged to travel in such magnificent surroundings.
No, it's being built. Wow.
Everybody, let's get to work. Everybody, let's get to work.
This just gives you an idea of the sheer scale of the thing. Because those lifts go up to the same level as the gantry that you see outside. Or that would have been outside, sorry. Just gives you just an idea of just like the sheer scale. And this was for 3 ships, not just one.
That's what we called her. We knew she'd be the largest passenger ship in the world, but we didn't call her Titanic then.
I was there from the beginning. I watched the shipwrights lay the keel blocks. They set big wooden blocks on the slipway to start with, then the keel atop of it, like a backbone, and the frames attached to that, like a skeleton.
Workshops everywhere. It took weeks to find your way around. There'd be workshops for every trade you ever heard of. Painters, sailmakers, coppersmiths, boiler makers, cabinet makers. I even learned a bit about French polishing off them.
Harlowworth was a fine place to work, but dangerous. Every ship cost a life, and there'd be lots of injuries besides.
I was in the engine works for a while. Very well equipped it was. That's where we built the triple expansion engines. 2 of them, each as high as a...
I worked in the frame bending shop. You had heat steel beams in the furnace, then hook them onto slabs of cast iron and hammer them curved. It was skilled work. You had to bend them more than you needed because the frame straightened out a little when it cooled.
The shell plates that made up the hull weighed up to 4.5 tons. They were taller than the da.
The plates were overlapped on the edges, sunk or raised, one after another. We called
That was
it
brilliant. How it's pretty much like almost like a scale model of what Titanic being built looked like.
Then the shell plates made up the hull were riveted onto the outside. The shell plates were all effectively 30 feet long, lead and 2 wet. Beside the shell plates were sunken and raised, known as inner and outer straight. At the bottom of the hull, the blades were attached using the finger method. Each blade would be able to clear the hull like a propeller boss hat.
The rudder was built of 6 steel sections. The rudder frames had to be enormously strong to withstand the force of the rudder turning in heavy seas.
We've just seen that. Obviously, with a big gap in between, so we could fit in between it. Olympic. There she is. Wow. And there is Titanic slipway. Wow.
It took 62 seconds.
Britannic, Olympic, Titanic were launched from those shipways.
Harry and I are convinced that the pursuit of speed is futile. Safety and luxury.
And you can see that Belfast is still used as a dock for cruise ships. And whatever that one is.
Our master of ceremonies, Mr. Key, has not disappointed. There must have been 100,000 spectators here who have seen the finest.
I will definitely be taking you out there to show you what this place looks like from the water side. But here's what it looked like back in 1911.
There's over 200 person here.
That's where we are now, and there's the shipway. That is impressive. So after it was launched from just behind me, you need to fit a boat out, obviously. But look at this.
Signal flags and pennants. A Good Friday tribute to the people of Southampton who had welcomed her. By April 10th, the ship had been ready for mission. Almost a year of fitting out followed, transforming the massive hull into the sumptuously appointed liner described by the White Star Line as a Queen of the Ocean. By March 1912, Titanic was ready for her maiden voyage. For Belfast, the triumphant culmination of many years' planning and labour. Before she could be handed over, Titanic had to undergo sea trials. On the 2nd of April 1912, she carried out a series of manoeuvres in open water, under the watchful eye of Board of Trade Inspector Francis Carruthers. Then, at 8 p.m. that evening, she departed Belfast for Southampton. She was preceded by a considerable weight of expectation. At Southampton was the White Star.
There's her starboard side.
Almost a year of fitting out followed, transforming the massive hull into the sumptuously appointed liner described.
And to
by the
think
White Star
now,
Line
ships
as
dwarf
Queen of
this.
the Ocean. By March 1912,
Unbelievable.
Titanic was ready for her maiden voyage. For Belfast, the triumphant culmination
And
of
there's
many
a
years' planning and labour.
Bedroom, definitely first class bedroom. I mean, look at it.
Titanic had to undergo sea trials.
That's unbelievable.
2nd of April 1912.
I mean, now you probably expect that in a normal cabin, but back then, obviously, wasn't.
Inspector Francis Carruthers. Then, at 8 p.m. that evening, he departed Belfast for Southampton. She was received by a considerable weight of expectation. The White Star Line had already constructed a massive deep water ocean tunnel, almost 60 meters, and ledge to ledge with rooms.
And here is the site of the maiden voyage.
Titanic was dressed in a signal flags and boots as a good Friday journey.
Belfast, Southampton, Cherbourg, Queenstown, Iceberg.
75,000 pounds of fresh meat, 40,000 eggs, 1,000 sweetbreads, and 80,000 cigars. At 7 a.m., Captain Edward Johnson came aboard the Titanic.
So it left there, and that is the last photograph ever taken of Titanic. Unfortunately, they never saw that. Most of the passengers unfortunately died.
Not thinking of anything serious and feeling numb to the pain. Then he said, the water's up west, deck of the mail.
It was about midnight when I became aware that there was no hope of the Titanic remaining afloat. The lifeboats were then being lowered as quickly as possible with women and children. We were confident of what one would expect. There was little or no commotion as the boats were lowered. After waiting some time, I got on a boat, but it was so crowded that something prompted me to ask to be taken back again on the ship. Strange as it may seem, when this lifeboat was being released from the davit, it overturned and all in it was drowned. Naturally, I was very frightened by this time, and I went quickly to the other side. The last boat was being filled, and I was the last person to get onto it. The water was by this time nearly on a level with the deck from which the boats were being lowered.
Now, between lowering one boat and another, I frequently took a run forward and a quick look down a long stairway that led from the boat deck 3 or 4 decks down. Frankly, I'm never likely to forget the sight of that cold, greenish water creeping step by step up that stairway.
The ship was now sinking fast, but the crowds on deck were quite calm. Our whole trouble was in getting away as quickly as possible, otherwise our boat would be pulled down with the ship. During all this time, the ship's piano was kept playing, and the strains of Nearer My God to Thee could be plainly heard as the stern of the great ship was raised in the air.
A bit later, the foreign funnel guys carried away, and the funnel, weighing perhaps 50 or 60 tons, fell down with a crash on the water. It missed the rock and some of us hanging onto it, by inches. There were a good many that didn't, but some 30 or 40 yards away from the ship. The wash of the falling funnel had evidently picked us up, raft and all, and flung us clear of the ship altogether.
I was surprised to see all the boats had gone, and there was the last boat, I think, to leave the Titanic was number 13. No, there was a 15, but we had trouble with our davits. They were frozen, and I'll tell you, I thought we were just going to be dumped into the water. We had one of the worst times for that boat to be lowered. And I had the baby, and the baby was crying all night. So finally we touched the water, and we were rowing. There was a light in the distance, and the captain said, "Now, men, row to that light, up your ship, come back and pick up our passengers." Our men rowed and rowed, but that light was no nearer, or more distinct or indistinct. And we all called it the mysterious light. Oh, I knew I was going to drown. I knew my days were numbered. I felt it.
For a long time we didn't move the boat.
when we laid off on the south side. You could see by the arrangements of the lights. All the lights were burning, and you could see that she was going down.
Slowly, she reared up on end. Till at last, she was absolutely perpendicular. Then, quite quietly, but quicker and quicker, she seemed just to slide away under the surface and disappear. As she vanished, everyone round me on the upturn moved, as though they could hardly believe. Just said, "He's gone."
And so, presently about silence. I was officer in charge of the British line when the Titanic tragedy occurred. And I personally knew.
Now, as we know, Titanic cost a lot of lives. You're about to see just how many it cost. We'll start with the amount that was saved. Now, I can't believe the number I'm about to show you. 1,512.
Just before going to the stateroom, there was a bump. As I turned the handle of my room, there was another bump. As I got into my room, there was a third bump. So the intrusion stuff, nothing very violent. And I slipped on a coat over my white satin evening dress.
I've got to say, this museum gives you a very somber reality of the horrific disaster that Titanic was. The film really doesn't give you any realism to the event at all, apart from it sinking and hitting an iceberg. And it was vowed to never again happen. Now, when the passengers who survived the sinking arrived in New York, the US Senate had already started an inquiry, and they wanted some testimonies. Well, look at how many they got. The Titanic sank in 1912. They didn't find it until 1985. And that is all thanks to one person in particular, Robert Ballard. He wanted to find it because to him it was the most important thing to find. And I've got to say that now, going to deep sea exploration is not cheap, and as you saw, he failed his first attempt. Well, he made a deal with the US military. The US military said to Robert Ballard, find us the USS Thresher and USS Scorpion, and we'll help you find Titanic. We'll fund you to do it. Well, he's not going to give that up, is he? He's not going to turn that down. But you have this amount of time to find those two submarines, and if you use all that time, you can't go and find Titanic. And that was known as the secret mission. 1st of September 1985. Found the boiler. There he is, Robert Ballard. And there's the boiler. That was amazing. I've got to say, it was really well put together. That was unbelievable. I enjoyed that. As much as you can enjoy a story about a ship that sank and thousands of people died. It just puts everything into perspective, really. You know, that a ship that was once set sail from there is now at the bottom of the sea, rotting away. I would 100% recommend coming here, because it just gives you a different perspective to what you think you know about that story. And I think it's just unbelievable. And yeah, I am so glad I actually came back to see it. I think this is a perfect place. I can't think of a better place to end this video than with the Titanic museum behind me and the slipways used to construct the Olympic and the Titanic. I've got to say, it was a wonderful experience just to learn everything about how it was built and how it was made, and when it was shipped out of here to Southampton, and its fateful maiden voyage. I do hope you've enjoyed this video. Not the normal happy one that we normally do, because of obviously what happened to Titanic in the end in April 1912. But I do hope you enjoyed it anyway. If you did, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you missed the video. Me and the Coffee Cup will see you in the next one.